I went to lunch with some bankers and they spent 3 grand on lunch. And I was bricking it because I could not afford to even split the ticket. But I learned a really powerful lesson, a kind of a mindset lesson that up to this point had screwed me. So I'm at this lunch and they're all just buying drinks and doing whatever they want without second thought to how much it costs. And I'm sat there stressing about the money. And I realized at that moment that everything I'd known about money, about life, society, the works, everything I'd known was from the bottom. And I had approached life from where I'd come from, the bottom. Those guys dropped with me 11,000 quid without even thinking about it. And that was a huge amount of money for me, massive amount of money for me. I'd never seen or had that amount of money to myself before. But for them, it was a drop in the ocean. And what I realized from that experience was that I should never put my limitations on money on my customers. And what do I mean by that? Well, I found myself in the early days, what I would do is I would have a price and then have an internal war with myself, questioning my own price. And I'd be on this call with a customer, a prospect, and I'd be talking it through with them. And in my head, I know how much I want to charge, but I'd be like, oh, that's a lot of money. I need the money. It's a lot of money. And I'd be having this internal debate whilst talking to the prospect. And I'd avoid talking about the price. And then they'd ask me, so how much is it? And in my head, I've got this internal war about the price because my money experience with money and where I've come from the bottom is kind of tearing my thinking up. And let's say it was 3 grand. I'd go, yeah, it's 1,500. And a lot of people do that because their price is a lot of money to them. And this is where I've had to go on a real journey about what's the value to my customer. I have to understand the value of the problem that I'm solving for my customer. Because if I don't do that, like I will just price it based on my time, or I will price it based on my values. And my values are, I grew up in a very working class home where we didn't have very much. So I will price to the fact that, to me, mentally, even now, years and years later, it still feels like £200 is a lot of money. Because years and years and years ago, £200 was like a huge amount of money. So you carry through what your experience is into your business. And for me, I was carrying through working class, hardly any money mentality. And guess what? I actually projected that into my business. And so I wouldn't charge the right amounts. Even when I knew the right market amounts, what the market was charging, I would always undercharge. I would always offer discounts. I would always do all of this stuff. And I remember one moment, I quoted a customer, and this really kicked me in the teeth. Customer said to me, so how much is it? And I said, £8,000 a month. And at that point, that was the biggest deal I'd ever priced for my own business, £8,000 a month. It was different when I worked for other people because they set the pricing. But £8,000 a month for me was huge. And I was like, I might not get this now. And I'm thinking about it and stressing about it. My palms are getting sweaty. I said £8,000 a month. And the CEO went, done. And I was shocked. I was like, what? That was it? No arguing, no haggling, no nothing, no. And then they said, send us an invoice, we'll get you the first payment. I was like, what? I don't have to fight for it? I don't have to wait for it? I don't have to chase it? Because of my experience I'd had so far, the mentality I'd brought into my business, I'd projected it onto my business. And so my business was a mirror of my mentality. And then I realized another thing. The fact that he said yes so quickly, the fact that he said done and so quickly, do you know what that meant? I could have charged more. What goes on in here comes out in here. What goes on in your head comes out in your actions, comes out in your life, comes out everywhere. And that's true in business, that's true in life, and it's true in pricing and money.